everyone, I'm Chef Alicia, and in this video you're going to learn how to make stuffed meatloaf. But before I go on to my recipe, I want to tell you where the inspiration came from. So today I'm collaborating with No Hippie BBQ, and he is doing a twist on one of my recipes. He's doing my Chili Rellenos, and I'm doing a twist on one of his recipes. So I'm doing his stuffed meatloaf, and I have chose to do a jalapeno popper stuffed meatloaf. Subscribe before you leave here if you're not already subscribed, and enjoy the video.
I'm going to start off by dicing up one small onion. I want the dice to be fairly small, so I'm going to make slices horizontally, probably like 5 or 6 on each side. And then I'm going to turn the onion and cut it long ways, kind of like cutting it into French fries. And then I'm going to turn it the other way and finish off my dice. So this is just about the size that I'm looking for to give you an idea. And now on to my jalapenos. So for my particular meatloaf, I don't want it to be super spicy because it's kind of a lot for me to handle, a lot of heat. So I'm going to remove the ribs from one of my jalapenos and then from half of the other one. So I'm taking out the ribs as well as the seeds. If you want your meatloaf to be spicier, you can choose to leave all of the ribs and seeds in, or you can even add in some additional heat from like cayenne pepper or something like that. So here I'm just again slicing up my jalapeno, and I've sliced it long ways, and then I'm going to slice it in the opposite direction to give me a small dice. And I'm going to cut up the rest of my jalapenos this way. Here I probably ended up with about a cup, maybe a cup and a quarter of the diced jalapenos. So now I've moved over to my small food processor, and I have 8 ounces of cream cheese in here, and I'm adding in probably around a quarter of a cup of those diced jalapenos along with a quarter cup of heavy cream. And you may need to add more cream than that, but I'm just going to kind of add it in as I need it. I'm also going to put in 1.5 cups of sharp shredded cheddar cheese. And I just want to turn on my little food processor here and kind of see where I'm at as far as the consistency. And what I'm making right now is the filling for the meatloaf. So it's going to be like a jalapeno cheddar cream cheese kind of filling. And it is pretty thick, so you're going to have to move it around a little bit, probably inside of your food processor. And again, add a little bit of cream if you need to. I just now added in 1 teaspoon of salt, and I pretty much have the consistency where I want it. If you can look inside of the food processor, you see that it's moving around with the blade, so that's a good indication that it's where I want it. Here I have 1 pound of lean ground pork, so this is a 93.7 ground pork, and this is a 93.7 ground beef, and yes, it is a little bit oxidized and brown, but that is okay. I just bought it yesterday. It's very fresh. It's just all natural. I added in about 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce and 2 eggs. And this is my salt and pepper. I have about 2 teaspoons of salt and probably a half of a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. And now I just want to mix that all around. And I'm just mixing until I have the ingredients well combined and until I think that I have the salt distributed throughout the meat. So once I get to this point, I'm going to add in a little bit of breadcrumbs, and I'm just adding in maybe 3 tablespoons to start. And this is one of those things where you just have to learn the consistency that you're looking for. So kind of move the meat around and fold it over to blend that together. And that was my awesome husband helping me out, and he added in the onion that I had diced up earlier. And you can see that this meat is starting to kind of come together and hold together to itself. We're going to go ahead and add in the rest of the jalapenos. So all of those ingredients combined are really going to give us a nice flavor in the meat. So it's going to be a little bit spicy in the meat, and a little bit spicy in the filling. Again, you can make it as hot as you want just by adding more jalapeño, leaving in the seeds, leaving in the ribs, or adding additional heat like cayenne or something. So if you look at the texture of this meat, you can see that it's kind of starting to hold together when I move it. When you get to this point, the meat is finished, set it over to the side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my bacon weave ready. I need to start off here by laying down 6 strips of bacon. And once I get that done, I'm going to fold back alternating strands of bacon. And this is exactly like doing a lattice on top of a pie crust. If you've ever done something like that, you're just weaving the bacon just like you would a pie crust. And actually, Lyle has one of these over on his channel too, where he does a bacon wrapped meatloaf, and it looks absolutely delicious. So now I'm going to do the opposite pieces from what I did on the last strip. And lay another piece of bacon down. And I'm only going to show you one more strip, and then we are going to speed things up a bit so that you can kind of watch this and fast forward, but still really see how to do it and how it is going to come out. And again, just folding back those opposite pieces of bacon. This is the last one that we're going to do in regular motion, and then we're going to switch. And I just want to finish out this bacon weave for you so you can see how gorgeous it's going to turn out. And this is a really way to make a nice presentation for your meatloaf instead of serving just, you know, like your regular everyday ordinary meatloaf. This is also a great thing to wrap around like a pork roast. So this is what it's going to look like. Just set it over to the side. And what I have here is actually a lunch bento box, and I'm going to use this for my meatloaf mold. I just now sprayed the inside with cooking spray, and I'm putting about a pound of that meat into the little container here, maybe just under a pound. When you're doing this, it's really important that you use one big piece of meat, so you don't want to like build up the walls on the sides. You want to kind of fill up whatever you're using for your mold and then push a little canal down into the middle, because if you just build up the sides piece by piece, it will end up leaking all over the place, and that is not a good thing. So I've kind of hollowed out the middle here, and I might have made it just a little bit thinner than I would like, so I'm going to go back here and put just a little bit of meat to make sure that I have it nice and thick on the bottom there. And once I'm happy with what I have going on here, I want to go over the sides and make sure there are no places where there are obvious holes. And then I'm going to add in that cheese mixture that we made a little bit earlier. One of the reasons that I chose to use the 93.7 meat on this, the 93.7 pork as well as the ground beef, is because you get less shrinkage when it cooks. When you have a higher fat ratio, it tends to make the meat shrink down more. And in case you don't know, 93.7 means 93% meat and 7% fat. So these leaner cuts of meat are better for this particular recipe. And now I have basically made a patty to go on top, and it's close to an inch thick, and I put it right on the top, and then I'm just kind of pushing down on the sides all the way around to make sure that I don't have any places where the filling is going to leak out when I bake it. And again, here I just want to go over the meat and make sure that I don't have any obvious holes or places where I know the filling is going to come out. So I'm just kind of packing it down. And now I am ready to wrap it up in that lovely bacon weave, and the foil is your friend here because it makes it so much easier to fold it over, and you don't have to deal with it strand by strand, and it won't come apart all over the place on you. So just use the foil to fold it over, and then any of the loose bacon ends, just kind of wrap them around. And again, I'm just using the foil. Foil is our friend. I want to kind of look and make sure that I have it where I want it on the meatloaf before I wrap it all the way around. So I do. So I'm just flipping it back over here, and again, I'm going to take all of those loose ends and kind of just neaten them up and tuck them in where I can. This is going to be the bottom of the meatloaf, so you're not really going to see it, but it's still important that you take your time and make it nice under there because you want everything to cook evenly. So let's take a look at what we have. There we go. This is completely lovely and it is ready to go into my roasting pan. This one is the exact same thing that I just now did without the bacon wrap. These went into the oven at 350 degrees for like 50 minutes, and I did get a little bit impatient and crank the heat up to 375 because I wanted the bacon to crisp up, and I kind of think that that's why this guy leaked, but it's not as much as it looks like. Believe me, there is still a ton of filling inside, and I'm going to eat what leaked out on crackers because it's delicious. Okay, so let's cut into this and see exactly what we have. So obviously that's the end of it, so there's going to be a little bit less filling on the end, which is fine and to be expected. Oh, did you see that gush out? So delicious. So I just want to go ahead and cut another slice to show you what it's going to look like a little bit further into the meatloaf. And as you can see, like I said, not that much leaked out. There's still a ton of filling on the inside of this, and I'm going to kind of turn it so that you can get a better view and see all of that delicious goodness that's on the inside. So this one is ready to serve.